How's everybody doing? I feel like this is a little bit off kilter here. That looks a little better. I'm so pro. I didn't know what to do today. I was going to do this, what I thought might be funny. I was going to call it the Mike Z Steelo. Steelo is a term that I've learned, and I only ever heard about it for the first time maybe 6 months ago. Went over to a friend's house. This woman friend of mine, her daughter's boyfriend was there. Young guy, nice kid, big guy. He just got out of the joint. Been in there for a few years, and he was very respectful and all that. And I had my normal look. I had the cap on that used to be the train conductor style. I might as well grab it for you. It's right here. I had this thing here on. You guys might remember this one. I put the grommets in myself. The red grommets on the side to breathe. I put the hole in the side for the pencil. I was wearing this. I was wearing that denim pullover you'll see me wearing, which is a reproduction of a U.S. Army pullover. It goes back, some people say World War I, but I think it was from the 20s. I like kind of cool stuff that I think is cool. Anyhow, the point is, my friend called me like the next day, and she was like, and I forget the guy's name. She's like, so and so said he liked your Steelo because I have a certain look that's kind of based on just work clothes. I have nice clothes. You've seen some of them here, at least like shirts with a collar and buttons, and a whole closet full of nice stuff. I used to have nice suits. I used to get dressed up, put a tie on just to go out and have cocktails, man, back in the day. When I got back into motorcycles 25 or more years ago, it just became engineer boots and Levi's and a t-shirt and a leather jacket for a long time. And I'm a blue collar guy working, and I'm not married. I don't have a woman in my life who's pestering me to dress better. You know what I'm saying? You know how you are. So it's just a bit of a laziness. But with the YouTube thing, I've become more aware of it. So I'm trying to I should have worn a nicer shirt, but I bought this shirt at the Duct Tape Drags a couple weeks ago, and I like these girls. This gal here wanted to promote her on the channel. So I'm always looking for cool, obscure t-shirts, and I got my shoes and the hats, and thinking about that, I realized I'd be talking about me in a way, as I'm doing right this minute. Me, 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 me. I don't like doing it. Even I'm sick of me. You heard? I'd much rather. Like yesterday, I put a video out on a bicycle that I was building, so we'll talk about that. And there's a fair criticism to a certain extent, but it's a weird criticism that you get from people from time to time. If you're watching somebody who's hosting their own show, they got their own show, or you're watching YouTube, and it's a person similar to me, 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 and your criticism is that person seems like they're into themselves or too into themselves. That's a weird criticism because first of all, you should all be into yourselves to a pretty big degree. That doesn't mean you should be a narcissist, and not care about anybody else and not be empathetic and all those things. But the number one, most important person in your life, in case you aren't aware of it, it happens to be, let me think here. Oh yeah, you. It's you. You're the most important person in your life. This should not be a shock to you. I mean, if you're a parent, you have to put your children above everything else. But that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice for your own happiness and everything either. There's a little give and take with that I understand. But you understand what I'm saying. You need to take care of yourself. You've got to treat yourself right. You've got to work on your own psyche. You got to sleep well at night. You got to get some exercise. All these common sense things you got to do. If you are the best version of yourself, which is only going to result from you putting time in with yourself, then you're going to be a better human being, and other people around you, you get it. I don't have to get too deep into this subject, I don't think. I think you get it. But yes, I realize talking about these things, it's me, 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 me. And I don't want it to be always me, me, me. So I'm with you, man. If you got a problem with me, I got a problem with me to a certain extent. So we're both on the same page. Can we get along now? Can we all agree? I could sound like I'm a little bit too into myself sometimes. Okay. You got to be confident enough to be able to put yourself out there like this. That's all I'm saying. It's always funny to get criticism from people who watch, and then you look at their YouTube and they don't have anything. They're not putting anything out there. So that's a thing. And then, which is normal. But when people are putting something out there, then you look at that and you go, there's 4 videos and they're 3 minutes long each, and there's a year or two between them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, let's just throw that to the side now and get over it. Are you over it now? Can I get on with the normal thing I wanted to talk about? Are we all calm? Okay. You see the hat. Carla got back to me. I reached out to her. So this is for her. For Carla, this is you. Not this is just notes. That's all this is. Originally, when I talked about these caps and Carla came over and I bought a sewing machine, I really should be using it. There's too much other stuff going on. A lot going on. I don't need to fill you guys in on everything. She needs to figure out a few more things with this. They look cool. She sent me 3 sizes of, look at this one, and this one. One of these, all these were a little big on me, but I took this one that was the closest size. I put it in the wash and I put it in the dryer and it shrank perfect. We talked about numbers on these pricing wise, and I looked it up, and there's people that make vintage style like this is from the 1940s caps, well done. And some of these people are getting, a lot of people are getting well over $200 in the $300 range for these caps. And a bunch of you guys came out and you said, I'd spend $150 if it was a well done version. These are prototypes still. She doesn't have these dialed yet. I couldn't sell these for that. So Carla, if you're listening, here's a couple things. We have to work on this brim issue. Hang on, don't go anywhere. I got a version right here. Okay, just in case I haven't said it already, I'm so pro. If you look at this cap here, the brim sticks out. So there has to be a way when you make the brim, there has to be enough extra material that you're sewing. We're going to call this the hemline, the band, the headband. There has to be enough material there that you can bend at 90 degrees before you even sew it. That will allow you to bend it at 90 degrees so that the brim will come out after you've sewn it here to 90 degrees. Because right now, all these caps are coming straight down. That's a problem. So we have to solve that first. Staying on the brim, we need more thickness on the brim. So that stuff that you're sandwiching in there, we need that to be thicker or another layer, something like that. And then this material, this is a herringbone twill. You can't see it from there. If I hold it up to the light, I could see through it. I got to get up again. I'm so pro. I got this other cap here to show you. So, man, this is a Marine Corps cover from the 1970s. And it's at least double layer. It might be triple layer thick here. On the inside, you might be able to see there's stitching. There's a line here and a line going across there. But on the top, you don't see that. So there's 3 layers of material on this cap. Why is that important? Well, UV rays, man. UV rays. So this material is so thin, you can wear this cap, and it's a fashion thing at this point. But the sun's getting through that. It's still getting to your scalp. It's still getting to the top of your head. So you need an insulation there. Even in warm weather. And then the other thing, which I'll be doing myself, is this has grommets to breathe on the side, which... Oh boy. Hey, just to remind you, I'm so pro. The grommets I put in here, same thing. Yeah, grommets on this one here, same thing. So we need to at least, what I would suggest is, let's do a version of this where we double up the cover section. And then I wouldn't have a problem, even if you saw it from the top, if there was a stitching here and here. Or some other way to do it to hold it together for you. Whatever floats your boat. These are notes for Carla, but you guys should be paying attention to this as well if you're into this sort of thing. The other thing is you got to make sure that you orient the fabric correct. So the herringbone twill pattern, this right now is going on an angle. You want to make sure that's going north-south. That's just going to look better. I was nervous that the pencil slot holes here on the side might be a little small, but they do fit the fat pencil, so it's fine. But if you wanted to make them a little bit longer, that's fine too. Other than that, I think we're okay. Possibly a little more volume in the top, but I think we're okay. So minimum double layer the top here. Figure out this brim so it's not pointing straight down, so it can bend out. Because right now it wants to bend here. It will not bend where it's sewn and stay there. It's just going to flop up or flop down. So that's a material issue at the bend before you sew. You just got to figure that one out. Thicken the brim. And then work on your stitching, as you know, you already said to me, because like these are all inconsistent, like the size of the brim on these things, the headband, they're kind of different sizes there. Like this one's a lot fatter than this one, so these things have to be consistent. You know this already. Again, this is for Carla. These are just notes, not on your case, but this is the thing we have to talk about. And I figure I'll just show this now, but. This is some fabric I had, and I sent it to her to make the prototypes to practice on. Do the same thing with these. Double thick the layer on this. And I like this. I would even sport this pattern. Don't have a problem with that. You can see the issue here with the brim. This is a problem. Of course, you wear it up anyhow. Strictly speaking, fashion-wise, it's not bad. It's not bad. I would sport this. You saw how cute Carla looked in this cap originally when she was over, or when she first sent the prototype. Women look adorable in these things. So ladies, I have 3 of these. Make me an offer. They're like small, medium, and large, but it's kind of hard for me to tell. I'll run a tape measure on the inside of them. If you get a little big, you can wash it and shrink it in the dryer if that'll work for you. Because I would like to see people wearing them. And then I've got these 2 left over. As well. So guys, let me know. Send me a note, mike@mikezdesign.com. We'll work something out because I want some feedback. And if I can make a few bucks right now, it'd be great because I got to get some money coming in. I was going to spend money on this, and I had the money. And I was nervous because I knew there were things coming down the pike. I owed a guy some money. I knew my family was going to need some money. The taxes went up on the house in Arizona by like $200, maybe more. I got to do the first installment on that like now. And I'm in between projects. And I always know that that's always going to happen. So I held on to it instead of investing it more in the caps or the t-shirts. And I really want to do those things. But it's just me. Just me, all alone. And I don't have that steady thing I can count on every month. So it's going to take some time, and I can just apologize to you for that. These things are all coming down the pike. They'll happen. Another thing that happened, finally, my boy Chris with Broadwinger Boots got these back to me. You guys might remember this was the first pair I had made, and I had the smooth out on the toe. I didn't like it. It was too Frankenstein looking, as if this isn't Frankenstein looking enough with the big square toe on it. If you're not aware of these, I'm going to do a video on these this week, the whole barefoot shoe movement thing. I've done multiple videos on this stuff, but I just wanted to show you I got these, and we went with an extra thick layer on the sole. Again, I'll do an in-depth video on it compared to this one. You can see the difference for standing on concrete all day. And we went with this nice thick Vibram sole. It's going to last a lot longer. I've worn these every day for over a year. Pretty much the only shoe I've been wearing. And you can see the wear on these, which is not bad. Although that was a very thin Vibram sole on there. So these are going to get the same stack sole and probably the same Vibram on the bottom that this one has. I'm very excited about that. I just walked in these for about 3 miles. I also came up with and made this really cool kiltie for here. Do I have to get up again? Oh my God, it's right here. That's my hiney you're probably looking at. I hope you guys like it. That's a $20 peak usually. So this is my pattern for the kilties. The kiltie is the piece of leather that goes above the tongue, and that just is comfortable so when you cinch the laces down. I made a set first that had, hey, let me just remind you of how pro I am. The first one I made went straight down. I didn't like it on the boot. And then I realized I've got to flare it out, which definitely looks a lot better on the boot. So that's a thing. And that's it. So we're done with the fashion Steelo show. Carla, I hope you got those tips. We'll talk. We'll probably talk tomorrow, Monday. But I do like the hat. You know, it's just it's too, at the moment, it's just not a heavy duty thing. Getting back to my Steelo, my look, because you know what this is about. It's all about me, baby. me. I'm going to look back on this and be like, never do that again. You promise? I'm never gonna do it. I'm never gonna do it again. I promise. Me. I'm losing my mind. Me. Where was I? It needs to be more heavy duty. I'm into vintage heavy duty workwear. I really want to produce some of these pieces. So that'll happen. I just have to, I'll keep talking to Carla if I could throw a couple bucks from here. She's got a Etsy channel. Carla, if you're listening, send me the link for your Etsy page, and I will share it in the link or the description box of this video so you get more work, which is only going to hurt me because you're going to be so busy you won't be able to get to my stuff. I like Carla, man. And let's face it, Carla's easy on the eyes too there, fellas. I wouldn't mind having her come out again for another visit. That's it. I think we're done here. I forgot to look at the watch before I started. Well, let's talk about the bicycle thing real quick because it's been a long time. Every once in a while I'll do a video on a bike that I've already built. Yesterday's video I was frustrated, and that's not your best bike building video. A lot of people do it better than I do. I understand it. I was mostly trying to pass some knowledge along, and I got the roller going, and I'm kind of happy with that. It felt good to do it. I'll tell you, I haven't ridden a bike. I mean, I rode a bike when Sarah was out here and when my other friend came out, but I used to commute on a bike. Sometimes it was 5 days a week to my shop. I'd ride to the shop, I'd ride home for lunch, I'd ride back, I'd ride home. I get 10 miles a day in on the bicycle. I really should start doing that again. But I haven't been doing a lot of just shop work. I've been taking on projects at people's homes again. So it's kind of harder to do that. But I figured since I did it yesterday, I'd share kind of my thing with bicycles. I kind of touched on it in that video yesterday, but that thing when you're a kid, when you get a bike and you learn how to ride a bike and you have that freedom, was always a thing with me. It's a thing for a lot of kids. I don't know if it is as much today because there it goes. You hear that? I could tell I had to pop that joint in my foot. My foot, because it's all about me. Me. So, me. You guys are going to hate this video. So, I think today, I don't know if it's the same thing. And kids aren't out in neighborhoods. I had this whole discussion with my sister the other day. And my sister homeschools her daughter and everything. And they're together 24/7. And she's not, I don't think she's that comfortable leaving her alone. She's 9, or letting her go outside to play by herself and everything, which is wild because when I was a kid, my mother especially, it was like, get out of the house. Get out of here. Get out of the house. My mother didn't want to know what I was doing or where I was. Unless I, busted some kid's nose in the neighborhood and then I got in trouble with I couldn't play with the other kids for a couple of weeks, which used to happen pretty regular. Carny. So yeah, you came home when the streetlights came on. And then when you were home, you were kind of made to feel like my mom was kind of like, I still don't want you here. That's kind of how it was in my household. So it's a weird thing to see kids not outside playing. I don't see a lot of kids outside playing. I'm sure now when I was in Kentucky visiting some friends a few years ago, it was a really nice neighborhood and there was kids out there playing all the time, but this is Los Angeles. I'm not seeing it a lot here. Play dates are a thing. That's the thing. So kids aren't typically riding a bicycle around. I saw a movie the other day. I think it was Diane Lane's first film in the 70s, and she's 13 years old in Paris. Her mother's played by Sally Kellerman, And she has a stepdad who's a guy who's been in a bunch of movies. But her mom is like looking to step out on him, and she's palling up with this director. And so she's on this movie set, Diane Land's character, 13 years old, and she meets this boy, 13-year-old boy, French kid, and they meet and they develop this romance. And they're going out and meeting each other all over Paris at 13 years old, just out running around. Parents just letting them go and do it. And when I was a kid, that's how it was. Young people were out running around doing it. 13 years old, see ya. I'm going to go hop a subway and go to some other town, 60 miles away or something. Kids used to do that. 200 years ago, 15 years old, kids were married. So it's really, this whole thing blows my mind. This isn't even about me. See that? See what I did there? I just made it about me again. So I'm just, my cage is rattled on this whole subject about kids and bicycles and getting out. I remember my dad, I was about 5 years old, thing fell off the back of a truck. My dad brought me home the Schwinn Typhoon Red candy paint job, the Schwinn Red that had that sparkle in it. Had the little red and white triangle seat with the chrome rack on the back, the little handlebars with the tassels. And my mom, actually, one of the nice things she did, she got out there on the street, helped me learn how to ride a bicycle. 2 days later, I got hit by my first car. It just bumped right into me, knocked me into a parked car. Handlebars came back, hit me right in the groin, which swelled up like elephantitis. It scared 5 years old, scared the crap out of me. What is going on? So there was that whole experience. That bike, the memory. Then, so later, as I was getting taller, bigger, I'd start wrenching on the bike, and I needed tools, so I'd figure that out. I found a tool here and there. Probably got one from a friend. I was always making money. 6, 8 years old, I was making money. I was washing the car, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, raking leaves, doing all the stuff you don't see kids doing that anymore, because this is that they've created this system now where people not from here, immigrants coming into the country now can do these jobs that American kids used to do. Because now we have gardeners that do that. When I was a kid, that didn't exist. People had kids to go get me a beer. Go to the store and get me this. Go get me that. Go do this. Clean that. Pick that up. Do this. That's why you had kids. In the old days, everybody was farming. You needed kids to work the land and deal with the animals. I used to have to run. Most embarrassing thing, with that bicycle, with that rack, when I was 9 years old, my mother sending me to the store every month, about every 27, 28 days or so, to buy her a carton of cigarettes and a big box of tampons. Yeah, 9 years old. You know how embarrassing that is? You go to the store. Yeah, I need a carton of Virginia Slims lights in the box, and I need a big box of tampons. What's your biggest, fattest, most absorbent tampon? 9 years old, strapping that to the back of my bicycle with bungee cords. I was probably using twine or something at that time, and riding home with that on the back of the bike. Thanks, Mom, for the memories. So that's how it used to be. And as I made a few bucks here and there, I'd buy little tools that I needed. And then I would eventually start working on the bikes more. And then I BMX that Schwinn at one point, put a taller fork on it from a Schwinn 10-speed, and the longer cranks and everything. And I different seats. I remember I set it back up as just a Stingray style bike in 1976. So I was going to be 10 years old that year. So I was 9. We moved to Paterson, New Jersey. And I'll never forget it, man. So it was red. I put ape hangers on it. And I had a banana seat that was the American flag with the sissy bar and all that. And I had flags taped to the ape hangers. And talk about letting your kids do whatever they want. I'll never forget it. Union Ave, Paterson, New Jersey. And on all the side streets, they were setting up for the parade. So people who were going to be in the parade are parking on these side streets, and then they would drive up around the back blocks down to the end of Union Ave and then find their position in the parade and then ended up driving right by my house. And there was this guy parked next to some old World War II veteran. Let me think for a second. 45, 55, 65, 75, 30 years. So that guy could have probably been like 50 years old, looked like an old guy. I'm older now than that guy was then, and he looked like he was 80 years old to me when I was 9 years old. Crazy. We don't know this guy. He's cleaning his car. He's got the veteran plaque in there and everything. He's going to ride in the parade. I'm talking to him. He's telling me stories. I'm like checking it out. He asks me, "You want to go in the parade?" Oh, let me ask my mom. My mom's like, "Perfect stranger." "Oh yeah, sure. Take my kid." That guy could have been. He wasn't. He was a super nice guy. I got in the parade. I rode in the back seat. I don't know if I rode in the back or the front, but I'm in the car and I'm waving to people and we're bullshitting. We're having a big old time. And he brought me home. Nobody in a million years would do that today. It just wouldn't happen. It's so crazy. I wonder about that. My mom's not alive today. I wish she was. I could talk to her. What did you think? Did you hope he wouldn't bring me home? Was that your plan? Take that kid. Get him away from me. I've had enough of this kid already. 9 friggin' years of this shit already. It's crazy. Anyhow, so I turned that into more of a BMX again, and what I'm doing here, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna use this term weaving. I'm weaving the conversation. People get on my case about it, where I'm talking about something, I go off on a tangent, I talk about this, but I always bring it back. I almost 90% of the time I bring it back and finish the topic I was on. And last night, I stayed up late till about midnight watching Trump on this thing called Flagrant. These 4 comedians, Andrew Schultz. So look up Andrew Schultz, look up Flagrant on YouTube and watch that interview with Trump. Holy cow, man. He's cracking these guys up. Trump has always been a comedian. But he used the term weaving. He's like, people give me this criticism. They're making it sound like I can't keep a straight thought or whatever. But he's like, I'm talking. And then as I'm talking, I think of something. And then I go off on that. But I always bring it back to the topic, and I call it weaving. I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm being entertaining. And I'm listening and I'm going, no wonder why, for me personally, he speaks to me. And I always say that he speaks like me because I do the same exact thing he does. Exactly the same thing. It's probably more of an East Coast thing. Our brains are faster. This is true. There's a guy, I don't know what his name is. Here's the third tangent before I get back to building bicycles. I know where I'm at. Man. There's some guy, he tested cities around the world, and then he did cities here in the U.S., and he had a criteria. How long does it take to go to the bank and do a transaction, like make change or something, buying a postage stamp, ordering lunch, getting served. He measured speech patterns and everything else, and he discovered that Boston, I think, is the fastest city in the country, followed by like New York, the East Coast, and then the slowest is Southwest. So people from where I'm from, we're like this, man. We're quick-witted, our brains are going 100 miles an hour, and we can focus on a few different things at the same time and have multiple conversations. And out here, it's like, when is this happening? What's next? Okay, I'll get there, man. No sweat. If you see me, you see me. I mean, it's crazy. So if you're from where I'm from, it's a little frustrating. I've been here for over 30 years now. I'm kind of used to it. At any rate, as Trump was talking about this, and he brings it back, and I'm realizing that, and I'm just wanted to bring that up because I know I'm doing it. And that's what he's doing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It means that you're kind of smart. It means that your brain can work on all these different levels. So, getting back to the bicycle thing, why it's important to me and a little my history with it, with that Schwinn in particular, it got to the point where I was getting taller, and so that bike was a little too small for me, and it was the junior frame, so I had the little stubby cranks on it. I could put longer cranks on it, which I did. What happened was another bike fell off the truck. My dad came home one day with new bikes for us. My dad worked in diners in Jersey for these particular types of people. And the way it works is these guys would hijack trucks, and then they pull up behind these businesses that are owned by their guys, their family guys. Guy walks in the back door. Hey, I got a truckload of fur coats. Next day. Hey, I got a truckload of bicycles. Hey, I got a truckload of this. Hey, I got a truckload of that. It's pure cash money for them. They didn't pay for a crap in the truck, so they could sell it for pennies on a dollar. They'll take whatever they can get for it. If they like you, sometimes they just give you stuff. So my dad was always bringing stuff home, which I learned the most important thing in a relationship. Here, I'm weaving over here now. Unexpected gift at the unexpected time. That's what's cool. Birthdays and things where you expect it, not the same thing. Unexpected gift at the unexpected time. Do that. You will ingratiate yourself to all sorts of people. You guys do it to me all the time. For me. Thank you. Speaking of, I'm going to weave to something else here in a moment. But let's stay with the bicycles. My dad came home with a couple 10 speeds. I remember it was a Free Spirit from Sears. It was a red, white, and blue 10-speed bicycle. I remember pulling the sticker off, and it was really cool because the paint blended from red to blue and made purple. And that's where they put the white sticker that said Free Spirit on it. And I rode that bike for a little bit. I wasn't a road bike kind of cat. But I noticed that the cranks were longer on it. So I remember pulling the cranks off and putting them on the Schwinn, and it was too... So now I had to take the fork off, and that's how I built that bike into a BMX. Flash to this kid I knew in school. We were talking about BMX, and he had a frame he wanted to sell me. So it was a Roadmaster at that time, which I don't recall them at all being advertised or anything. But it was a BMX frame. So it was a triangle frame. It had a BMX fork on it. And I took that, and I sanded it down, and I painted it black, hanging from my swing set in the backyard. I took the little 36 tooth sprocket from my Schwinn Typhoon. I put the long cranks on it from the 10-speed bike. I had, I don't remember the stem. I might have been using the Ashtabula stem from the Schwinn, which meant I did have a motocross bar in it, but it had to be pinched. So at the tube, the cross tube, so it would fit through that stem. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. I had a triangle seat on it. Now at the time, being a little kid I was probably like 11 at that time. Old, smoking cigarettes and going out with hookers at 11 years old. No, I wasn't. But living like that, 11 years old on the street, man. Nobody had any idea what we were doing, where we were, and the relationships we were having on the street with our friends, our peers, and getting into fights and girls and learning stuff on the street at that age. It was pretty crazy. In Paterson, New Jersey, which you haven't heard of it or been there, the stinking armpit, man. It's not a nice place. So I built this bicycle, and you couldn't get, I didn't know anything about aluminum rims at the time. There was a bike shop down the street. I spent so much time, the bike shop and the hardware store. The hardware store was first. So I was always buying sandpaper and supplies and spray paint there. And I was always going to the bike shop to get parts. So I got these heavy duty, like super heavy chrome steel wheels. I don't remember what the coaster brake was at the time, but they were coaster brake, thick spokes, ridiculously heavy. I got pads, so I had the red, so it was a black bike with a red pad on the top and a red pad on the stem. Geared perfect. It was an awesome bicycle. And it took me weeks to build this bike, every day practically, in the backyard working on this bike. And my mom was home all the time. She was lazy. She didn't work. So she could see me out the window working on this bike all day, every single day practically for weeks. I get the bike done. I take it out. I ride it 30 miles. I'm all over. West Paterson, Totowa. I'm all over the place. Visiting my friends, showing off the bike, Go to school the next day. I come home the next day. It's gone. Somebody stole it. And my mom was home all day. And naturally, I was upset. And I go to my mom. I was like, what's going on? Somebody went, it was this narrow thing to go through, this gate to get into my backyard. It didn't have another way to get to it. You had to go right across our front yard, go in the backyard, where the window is for the kitchen and everything else. Somebody went back and stole that bicycle. And my mom had zero, she could care less. She had zero care about that bicycle. Looking back on it, I wonder about it. Like, did she just take it someplace and give it to somebody or something? I honestly think that, looking back on it. And I was upset about that initially I was upset. like scared, anxious, anxiety. This, I'm actually feeling it right now thinking back to it. It's just feeling sick to my stomach that somebody went and violated me like that and stole this thing that I put so much effort into, and money, my own money. My parents weren't giving me money for this, right? I was earning my own money to build this perfect thing, and now it's gone. And I stopped being upset when my mother didn't react to it getting stolen. And I walked away angry with her, and I had this epiphany instantly. This all happened within less than an hour. All these emotions and this epiphany took place where I realized, suddenly it hit me. It was like a voice of God in my mind. Doesn't matter. The most important thing is you taught yourself how to do it, and now you have those skills. Just do it again. So I'm about 11 at that point in time where I was able to figure a little life lesson out for myself. And that's pretty cool. And I've always been like that. So jump to, I go through junior high and all that, and don't know what I was riding if I had a bike at that time. I probably went without one for a little while. My parents get divorced when I'm in 8th grade. I get to choose who to go with, and I was given a choice. I chose my dad. I didn't know what that was going to mean, but it meant that I ended up living by myself. And that first year we were up in New York, and I was with all these kids that grew up together. I didn't know them. There was a lot of conflict there. Some pretty fun stories. But I, was making some money here and there. I got a frame from a guy. It was a PK Ripper or something like that, but it had a cracked frame. I was going to try to weld it. I did build it and ride it for a bit. My dad finally gave me a couple bucks to buy this bike. It was called a Blue Max. I think it was a Huffy, and it was a 20-inch wheel bike, but it was a tall frame. So the head tube on it was tall, so it was a taller frame. And it was goofy in a way, and people goofed on me about it because it wasn't like a serious BMX bike. But I didn't know. I wasn't BMX like racing BMX. I was going out in the woods, and we'd find these patches of woods and build our own trails and jumps and do stuff like that, like normal kids would do. Poor kids whose parents they don't have the kind of money to buy them the latest, greatest gear and drive them around every weekend to go to these races. If you did that, I hope you look back on those days and count your blessings and thank your parents for having such a great childhood. This is not coming from jealousy. Good for you, man. That's super cool. And I know these guys today. I'm friends with guys that were big time BMX racers. Still doing it. Not racing BMX, but still riding bicycles all the time. My life was different because I was poor from a tough towns all over North Jersey and all that. Anyhow, I rode that bike all over. I was suffering in New York and did that. Then a lot of bad stuff happened freshman year, and I passed eventually, and I go to 10th grade. And that summer before 10th grade, I go back down the shore, the Jersey Shore, work on the boardwalk. I'm living alone in a boarding house. School starts. I got a beach house. So my dad would pay the rent and give me a couple bucks to live, but I was expected to kind of pay my own way too and still make money. And in the summers, that's what I did every summer. I worked on the boardwalk, made my own money, bought my own school clothes, took care of myself all summer. In the wintertime, he'd help with the rent, but I basically had to have my own money. And a guy I knew sold me a mongoose. It was Team Mongoose. It was blue. I took all the paint off that frame with a razor blade. Didn't get it all out perfect where the welds were, but you could barely notice that. And then I clear coated the frame, and I slowly got the parts. Z rims. I had a one-piece crank with a spider, probably a Sagino, and an alloy chain ring. I don't remember all the part names. I had a 4-bolt stem that was polished aluminum, good bars, good grips, little 2-finger lever on the front there. It was a rear brake only bike. And I had a uniseat, so that plastic seat where the seat post is all part of it for weight. It's a very light bike. Mongoose, right? Very, very cool. I got the better Mongoose stickers. I got the appropriate Mongoose stickers for the chrome style frame and put them on. I could ride a wheelie for miles down the road and jumping stuff and having a good old time. But this was the Jersey Shore, so I wasn't BMXing there. That was my transportation, and I was 15, 15 and 16 years old. But what happened there was at 16 or 17, when I was a junior in high school, I came home one day and uh, my dad was home. His car was there, but there was also another car there. It was a 71 Dodge Dart Swinger V8 318 and a 78 Honda K 750 with a Windjammer fairing on it and a realistic stereo built into it. So I thought my dad had friends over. I go on the pad, it's just him. And I'm like, what's with the car and the motorcycle? He goes, oh, those are for you. What? What? He goes, yeah, I had a good night playing poker last night. So he won a guy's motorcycle, he won another guy's car. Like, and my dad could gamble, man. He was, when I was a little kid, he would let me sit on hands with these people that had a lot of respect for my old man. He used to shake my hand as a little kid, tell me how much they respected my dad. Playing poker, cigars, the whole thing. I grew up around this stuff. So that was wild, and now I had a car. I didn't have a driver's license yet, but that didn't stop me from driving. The motorcycle was too much. I rode it, but it was too big. I was a little kid, man. It was too big and powerful for me. It scared the crap. I would have died if I would have, rode that regularly. I would be dead. So I stuck with the car, and then that was pretty much it for the bicycle. And when I went in the Marines, my dad took the car and the bike, and the bike eventually just disappeared through my sisters and their kids. Not this one. My other sister's not with us anymore, and that bike just disappeared. That bike today, that Mongoose with the parts on it, the parts alone would be worth a small fortune. I could probably get several $1,000s for that bicycle if I had it today, and it's just disappeared. So, but cycling, a bicycle was always a part of my life. I go in the Marines, I'm out here at Seal Beach, Security Force Marine in the 80s, and I bought a Raleigh road bike that was a touring road bike, so it wasn't like super lightweight for speed on the road. It was designed so you can put bags on it and stuff, and take it long distance and camp with it and everything. It was a well-made bike. It was a good bicycle. I remember cruising down PCH on that bike and having other bicyclists come up to me and want to race on the bicycle. This is the 1980s, man. Painter caps on backwards, and the sleeveless striped shirts and the Reeboks, and everybody's shorts were really short, and it was the 80s, man. It was a fun time, the music, everything else. But that was the time I remember, that was 86. I remember seeing for the first time in my life a mountain bike. They had only been being made for a few years at that time. I never saw one in New Jersey. I'm sure they were there, but I never saw one. And I'll never forget. I was like, what is that? Holy cow, man. Like that'll ride up a mountain bike. Like you can ride that anywhere, the tires, everything. So I get out in 87, and the first thing I did was I went to the bike shop in Toms River on Fisher Boulevard, and I bought a Trek 7000 aluminum frame rigid mountain bike, which I had to the point where I drove out here with it in 92 on the roof of a little Toyota Corolla. And I had that here, and I used to ride that bike from this apartment all the way up Beechwood and then up to the Hollywood sign. If you saw the Hollywood sign hike I did with Sarah, where you could see the front of the sign, there's this bend in the road there. You could see all this in that video. I used to ride all the way to that point and sit there and look at the sign and catch my breath and everything, and then ride home or do another part where I'd go by Madonna's house and then take this dirt road, this trail to the dam at the Hollywood reservoir, climb the fence with the bike, throw the bike over the fence, ride around the reservoir, over the bridge, through this other neighborhood, crazy hill climbs, practically vertical, and then come home. I would be on that bike sometimes for 3 hours straight up in the hills there. I was fit, man. Just, it was awesome. That bike I sold to a neighbor that still lives here, 20 years ago or so, and it got stolen from him. And I had other bikes along the way. I'm trying to keep this story short because we all built clunkers when I was a kid. You had another bike that was beat up and whatever and had mismatched parts that you'd ride in the dirt on the trails and everything. But I don't remember. It could be 10 years ago now. Probably is. I remember thinking to myself, I had the workshop there and it's like, why am I driving to that all the time? Fighter jets. I don't know if you can hear that. I've seen this more recently where you'll see 2 or 3 fighter jets going through the air here and banking these turns. By the way, they've also been spraying us here again. I know some of you don't buy into it. If you see a sky, I know what the flight patterns are. Planes fly from airport to airport. They don't fly in all these different directions for no reason. Crisscrossing all these, flying right behind the other one to make that one trail thicker, turning it on, turning it off. You can watch it all happen. They're definitely spraying something. Powers of observation is all that you need. They're also much, much higher than regular commercial flights. And if you look at them with binoculars, there's no windows on them. They're planes designed for this purpose. But that's another thing, and here I am weaving again. 10 years or so ago, I decided I should, build my own bike. And I started looking around on the internet, and that's when I somehow stumbled upon the term clunker with a K. I never heard that before. And I found a Facebook group. I don't remember the name of it now, and I was a big part of it for a long time. And the original guys that coined the phrase clunker, Charlie Kelly, Gary Fisher, Joe Breeze, Tom Ritchie, all these guys were in that group. And it was wild, man. I thought, well, I could do that. I've been building bikes. Again, I've been wrenching on them since I was a kid. So I went on Craigslist and bought a frame that looked like that. It wasn't. It was a Chinesium crappy frame, but it was a double, 2 bars, one above the other. It looked right. Built the bike. I built a wooden rack for it. I showed pictures. People freaked out. They're like, oh, that's cool. And that's how I met my buddy Chad Tick, who made the parts. So I bought this. You can't see it, but I brought my Schwinn that I bought from my hometown to him to braze it in a couple spots to make it extra strong. And I built that into a clunker. Then I built it into a geared clunker. Then I put it back to the cruiser. And I just started like I do with the watches, like I do with the knives, like I do with everything else you guys see here on the channel. I get into this is before I had YouTube, but I wasn't doing it. And I should have been. I should have been making these videos 10 years ago. I'd be much further ahead right now with it. Anyhow, I just got into it for fun, and I wasn't working a lot. Those Obama years were tough too, and I was kind of doing it then. I have to think now, 2008, 18 would have been, so it's been way more than 10 years ago. And I started doing them to make money on the side. So I take bikes. I know what bikes to look for on Craigslist for the parts. Early mountain bikes, early 80s mountain bikes. If you could find mountain bikes made before 1987 and they're still original, pick those up because the crank sets, the wheel sets, the gears, the bars, the pedals, it's all good quality stuff. So you get those. Then you buy the, up until like the 80s or so, beach cruisers. So pre-war, 1930s and 40s, all the way up to like 1980, 83, 40 years or more, a little more over 40 years. Those frames, those balloon style frames are pretty heavy duty. They're pretty tough and you can modify them. And then you take the mountain bike parts and you build tribute clunkers, man. And that's what I was doing. And when I first started doing it, I wasn't getting a whole lot of money for them. There was bikes I sold for a few $100 here and there. It's a tremendous amount of time and energy and work. And I have stripped. Well, that's another story. I have stripped down hundreds of bicycles. That's not an exaggeration. I've got the parts to prove it. And so I have a pretty good collection of parts. They're relatively well organized. But when I build a bike, it takes over the shop, and I can't do any woodworking at the same time. It's just too much. And grease doesn't mix with wood. You don't want to have grease on your hands and then touch a project. It's a thing. When I eventually move to Arizona, I'll have these different work areas, workshop for this, workshop for mechanics, an area for the leather, and I'll be able to go from one to the next without them cross-pollinating one another and getting things dirty. You know what I mean? So it got to the point a few years ago where I was able to make decent money on the builds where it was worth my time. $1,000 for a bike, $1,500 for a bike, maybe $2,000. I've gotten like 1,800 for a bike on a bike that really should be worth a couple $1,000s or more. And people are willing to pay for it now because the clunker thing has become a thing. Like people know what it is. They've educated themselves. They understand the parts when they see them. If a bike hanging in the kitchen, it's a Cleveland Welding Company frame bike that I had Chad do a bunch of brazing on and add bosses for cables and everything. And I gave him a template and he welded this gusset in on the frame. And it has some of the best parts from the era on it. The saddle on it is from that guy that died in Switzerland. You guys know who he is if you were in the clunker group. I always forget his name. He died with a heroin overdose. He was heavily tattooed. He was a tattoo artist in Switzerland. We didn't see eye to eye politically. You know, he used to pick on me all the time. But then I'd give him grief about Switzerland and what they did to support the Nazis during World War II and a lot of other horrible regimes, Marxists and dictators all over the planet because they'll take money from anybody in that country. Don't get me started on Switzerland. Am I weaving again? I'm weaving again. So that bike, it's a badass bike. I built it up and I built it because of a ride that takes place called the Pearl Pass ride, which I still haven't done. And I don't know that I'll be able to do it at this point now because I'm not riding enough to be fit enough to pull it off. I'd like to do it. And there's this guy, Austin Weaver. I'm weaving the conversation. And here's Austin Weaver. Hope he doesn't mind I mention his name. Super nice guy. Lives in a town out there in Colorado. And he organizes the Pearl Pass ride. The Pearl Pass ride, it's an annual thing. It's been well over 40 years now. And it was an event that took place where the guys up in Marin County, there were these bicycle rags, you know, magazines. And they heard about the guys in Colorado doing it. There was some story written about these guys that rode their bikes over Pearl Pass to Aspen, Colorado. I forget now the Garrison or something. I forget the name of the town that they start from, which is silly. I should be able to know this, but I've just been out of it now for the last few years. At any rate, the story was back in the day, a bunch of guys rode their motorcycles from Aspen over Pearl Pass to this other town and just wreaked havoc in the town. Went to all the bars, you know, tore up the town, talked a bunch of shit about how tough they were and everything else, and then rode their motorcycles back. Well, this town, and hopefully the name of it will come to me, I apologize, was a town full of tough dudes, blue collar, like logging dudes and whatnot. And they're like, screw these guys. So to one up the guys on the motorcycles, they got on their bicycles, their townie bikes, right? Which some of them, you can look at the pictures, had ape hangers on them and everything. They rode their bicycles over Pearl Pass to Aspen and then pulled the same bullshit on them in their town and went to the bars and everything else on bicycles as a joke. Well, it wasn't written like it was a joke. It was written like it was a thing that they do. And the guys in Marin County, I hope I'm getting these details right. If I'm not getting these details right, somebody will correct me below, as you guys tend to do. So the guys in Marin County read this story and they're like, oh, we should go out there and meet these guys. Don't go anywhere. It's going to take a second here. Just give me a minute. Where is it? Oh, man. There it is. Okay. I apologize for... That's like dead space on the radio. Watch this film. It's got a lot of this history in it. This guy brought this over and he autographed this. He gave me a poster that he autographed. This guy, William. Really, really nice guy. But clunkers, check this out. It's got all this history in it. I knew this story already before I saw this film. So the guys from Marin County get on a bus, take their bicycles. I think they warned them first. They say, hey, we'll ride out for the annual ride over Pearl Pass. And they get there, and these guys are like, they're not ready for this ride. Their bikes aren't. So the guys from Marin County get together with the guys in this town, and they get their bikes all put together, and they do this ride over Pearl Pass to Aspen. I think Aspen's right, too. I hope I got that right. Pearl Pass is definitely correct. And there's great photographs from it. It became this yearly thing that they would do. So these days, this guy Austin, he organizes it. And I built that bicycle, that Cleveland Welding Company frame bike. for that ride. It takes place in October. It's probably happening right now. I'm not paying attention to it. And there was a group of guys that I knew. I knew this one guy who invited me on a ride with a group of guys here that ride along the coast, and they almost all of them own Cook Brothers frame bicycles and with Cook Brothers parts. A stem for a Cook Brothers bike could be $4,000 or $5,000. A frame could be $10,000 or more. It's stupid, but it is what it is. And Power Lights and Champions and all these really cool bikes that were made in the 70s, like late 70s, early 80s, that are full-size, adult-size bikes with 26-inch wheels. And these companies popped up, and they used 4130 chromoly, and they were well-designed, and they're designed to look like the old fat tire bikes that people had, the pre-war frame, the bikes from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. Better geometry, tube forks, tough bikes. And these guys are into them. So he invited me on a ride. The van was geared up to do, because I was building I had a deck in the back to sleep on. I had my camping gear in it, and I had the bike in it. I had some of my tools in it because I was still working at it. I was gearing the bike up because the following week I was going to drive to Colorado and do this Pearl Pass ride on that bicycle. It's my first time riding with these guys. We park at the Long Beach Marina and have a great time. I like most of these guys. There's one guy in particular that showed up later after I've been riding with these guys for 2-3 years that I kind of knew from other people, and he's a jerk off. So he doesn't like me, lets everybody know it. I couldn't understand why. I tried to talk to him about it. He gave me a bullshit answer. I got into him about it, and he's just such a wishy-washy, swarmy guy. I had to pull away from the whole group because I knew if I was going to be around him, and he kept acting like this, I was, because you guys know I got a screw loose. Nobody wants to be around when it wiggles free. I don't want to get to that point with somebody. And so for the betterment of the entire group, I chose to walk away from it. Even though I like a lot of these guys, we all had a good time. But that's just how it is sometimes. You can't just, it's not like it was 200 years ago where you can just grab a guy in the dark and he disappears, and you get away with it. So I hope I'm not frightening you guys. Wait, am I talking about me again? Sorry. Me! Anyhow, as I was saying, we do the ride. It's a great day. So much fun. I've made new friends instantly. We get back to the parking lot. My van is gone. This was my 2-wheel drive Astro van, cargo van. The van got stolen. And that was that. And that really sucked. And they felt bad about it, So the thing about that was, with that bicycle, I always held out hope that bike would show up, because it is such a, I will put a video link. There's probably more than one. Maybe I'll do more than one, whatever's on my YouTube channel, to the videos I did on that bike in particular. I'll put the links so you guys can check it out. You'll know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys are listening to me and you have no idea what I'm talking about. So that bike was so unique, so special. The only one like it on the planet. It would cost you at least $3,000, probably, maybe more, to reproduce that bike. To find one of those frames, to spend the money, have a master artist who knows how to braze and everything, reinforce that frame the way Chad reinforced it, and get everything together. Find those very specific vintage parts, source that out. The seat on it, again, came from, it's a Brooks saddle, but it came from a particular guy. You can't put a price on that seat. That saddle, just because it came from this one guy. So there's emotion there. There's a story there. Some of the people that might be listening to this know who this guy is, and they loved him. They loved him as a friend, and he died. And I had to deal with him, and I sent him a set of Torker forks, and he sent me, this funny thing about the saddle was it was broken when he sent it to me. I had to rig it. I had to rig that saddle to work, and I did, and it's awesome. Anyhow, from time to time, I would put a picture of the bike out there, because in my mind, I thought, I just found it very, very hard to believe that anybody would stumble upon that bike. A homeless guy ride in it, garage sale, however, whatever happened to that bike, I just couldn't allow myself to believe that even a neophyte to bicycling, right? A person that doesn't understand the parts, wouldn't matter. If you look at that bicycle, you are going to see it as a work of art. You're going to see it as a one of a kind work of art, and that's what it is. And I just held on to that belief that maybe because this area, Southern California, and the people I know here, it's a lot of people that are into bicycles and would recognize that bike. It's not a PK Ripper. It's not a Schwinn. It's not a bike that if you looked at it, it's not a regular mountain bike. You look at a mountain bike, one mountain bike's like every other mountain bike. Triangle frame, geometry is the same. The ones with forks, suspension forks, ones that don't. For people who don't know bicycles, they all look the same. That bike doesn't look like any other bike. And I just held on to that. I held on to that. And from time to time on social media, Instagram and Facebook, I'd post a picture. I'd say, hey guys, this bike got stolen a couple of years ago. You never know. You might see it one day. And if you do, let me know. Pick it up. Call me. Crazy thing happened. Crazy thing happened. I get a message on Facebook one day. His name just jumped out of my brain. I was just talking about him with somebody else the other day. I'm sorry, dude. I know who you are and everything, and your name just jumped out of my brain. It'll come to me. At any rate, this guy sends me a message. Now, this guy turns out to be a guy who's part of the crew that I used to cruise with the expensive bikes. And I've ridden with him before. Not best friends with him, didn't grow up with him, don't know him very well. But he sends me a note. He goes, dude, I think I got your bike in my garage. What? He sends me a picture. It's my bike. It's been spray painted black. So he tells me this crazy story. Not long after it got stolen, within weeks or a month or so, he found that bike on OfferUp for $85, spray painted black. And he saw the pedals and he saw the wheels and he thought he'd buy it for the parts. He went, gave the guy the money, picked it up, put it in his garage with, the garage workshop I have is nothing. This guy's got bike stuff, bicycles everywhere. It's the sort of thing where you can get a bike and put it to the side and not touch it for a year. And that's what happened. He didn't touch it. Years have gone by since the bike got stolen. And anyhow, the point is I go down to meet with him. I was chomping at the bit, man. We had to find a day where he can meet me because he works for a living. And I go down there, and that's the bike. I couldn't believe it. And he couldn't believe it. And then we both realized we do believe it. And we started talking about our bikes that got stolen from us. And like how, there's a special place in hell for bike thieves. Stealing, I had bikes stolen. When I was a kid, I had bikes stolen. I remember my tricycle got stolen. I'll never forget my tricycle getting stolen. Kearney, New Jersey. So he wouldn't even take the $85 that he shelled out for that bike. And it was so cool talking to him. He's like, dude, so the idea was he bought it for the pedals and the wheels, put it in a corner. Excuse me. I got something in my throat now. That's how you fix that. You should do that in public sometime, especially like on a bus. So he told me, he's like, yeah, I put it in the back and it took me a while, a couple weeks or something to come back to. And he goes out, he's getting his tools and he's prepared to strip this bike down. And he pulls the bike and he looks at it and he starts looking. He looks at the bosses on the frame. He sees the gusset. He's like, what's this frame? He realizes what the frame is. I don't think he knew what the frame was at first. And he knew what the pedals were. He saw the wheels. And I got a custom layback 5/8 solid 4130 seat post with a fat 7/8 end brazed onto it so it'll work with modern seat guts. Even the quick release seat post thing I got in there and the cantilever brakes, everything on that frame is special. And it had a really rare high-rise bull moose handlebar that only came on one bicycle I'm aware, which is a Nishiki Pacific. They made them in single gear and 5 speeds. If you find a Nishiki Pacific, great clunker parts on there. The wheels are good. I'm not sure about the crankset, but the wheels are good. The handlebars are good. The brakes are good. Good stuff on there. And he's telling me this. He's like, dude, I looked at that bike and I looked at the parts and I saw it. It suddenly all started like going together in my mind, and I realized that was a labor of love. It was a work of art, and I recognized it. And he said once he had that thought in his head, he committed himself to never tearing it down. This goes to what I said a few minutes ago, where this is not me being full of myself. When I built that bike, I wasn't all like, ha, 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 like I think that's the best bike. I'll tell you this. There's a couple guys I was riding with. They're all Mexican guys, I believe. And I can't remember anybody's name anymore because I'm not hanging out with them anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. And one guy's pretty good-looking guy, handsome guy, pretty jacked. And there's the Verdugo Mountains over here on the other side of the San Gabriel Valley. And there's this hill you go up, and it's over 3 miles climb. And these Mexican guys, man, they could have a belly on them, and they could pedal up these mountains like billy goats. I don't know where it comes from. I can't do it. I can do a little bit. I got to go off the bike and push it. And all these guys had way more experience than I did in these mountains. We don't have it like that on the East Coast. We have forests and hills and stuff like that. Some mountains, but it's not like this. We don't have these nice roads. Anyhow, point is, I start doing that with them. I build this bike. That's the first ride I take it on after it's built. And these guys are all faster than me. And we get to the top, and it's a good solid 15-minute, I think that's right, downhill. Maybe a little more. It's a long hike up there with the bike. And we go down that mountain, and I win on that bike. And there's one guy in particular, that good-looking jack dude. He tries to win, and he usually does every single time. And I smoked his ass on this bicycle that I custom built. That is a work of art. And everybody gave me a lot of credit for that bike. And so I started to appreciate it more. I mean, that bike was the pinnacle of my clunker building. That bike was built by me to showcase everything I had learned building all the other bikes I built, dozens and dozens. You could see them. Go to the Facebook Bikeopolis Facebook page, go to the picture folders, and that's not all the bikes I ever built, but go look at how many picture folders there are of bicycles. And that was only within like a 6-year period of time, because I haven't been putting pictures on since then. And that bike I built for myself was the pinnacle of it, like a real 21 gear mountain bike clunker, built from that frame's probably around 1950, 52, in that range. So I was proud of it. And after it got stolen, I would look at the pictures from time to time, and it made me sick. So here I am, a few years after it's stolen, and I got it back. And I did a video on it, which you'll see the link to that in the description below. I'll do that for you. So really, I started this off talking about my Steelo and me. And then I transitioned to the bicycle thing. Because I did the bike video yesterday where I built a clunker from a Schwinn Varsity, which I've done a lot of. That bike, I'll probably get that dialed and I'll put it up for sale. It's not going to be $500. It'll be more than that. Maybe. Unless you're a subscriber, maybe we'll work something out. Also, one real quick thing. I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can. Let me just grab the computer. Because I wanted to thank a guy. I told him I would do it. This is a little premature. I've never been premature. One time I was premature. One time. There's a rumor about it too going around out here that I have to straighten out every once in a while. It was all her fault. She was just way too hot. And it's a pretty funny story actually, but it's too adult for tonight's Sunday night chat. I got an email from a guy. Bear with me. Yeah, that's it. His name is Rex Covington. He's in Texas. I think he's in Texas. And he sent me a note saying, I got a couple Texas hand-rolled cigars I want to send you. So he wanted my address. You guys might not know if you don't watch all the videos, because clearly you don't. It's okay. I'm not holding it against you. I got a product sent to me, a cigar humidor. It's like a mini refrigerator. It keeps the humidity. You plug it in, keeps a solid temperature and all that. And so I put it out there, and I'm asking you if you want to support the channel. This cigar humidor will hold up to 350 cigars. I can't afford to be buying cigars right now. That's just how it is, man. I mean, I spend money on stuff, but it's tangible stuff like this Seiko SKX 173 Singapore. You know, so I'll spend money on that. It's another story. Videos on that too. But a cigar that's going to cost, you know, $10, $20, $30. Cigars are friggin' expensive now. And just to smoke that, you know, for that kind of buzz, and I like the buzz I get from a cigar. It's pretty good. Matter of fact, I'd be way more entertaining and more interesting if I was smoking a cigar right now, doing this video, which is going to happen when I get to the house in Arizona. Well, I'll be doing videos from there when I go work on the house, where I'll be doing them in the backyard, smoking a cigar. I might even drink a little whiskey once in a while. I'm off the booze because of the gout thing, but I might try sipping a little bit. I haven't had a drink now in well over a month. So this guy, Rex Covington, he has an organization, Ride for a Cure. Check out rideforacure.com, and you can help Rex out. And like I said, this might be premature. Rex might not send me any cigars. So if that's the case, then erase it from your history. No. Rex, I'm sure you got a sense of humor. So check out Rex's thing here, rideforacure.com. And he's got www.lonestarrider.com if you want to check that out. I promised him I would do that. He didn't ask. I was just so happy and flabbergasted that he said he was going to send me some cigars. When I ask, I rarely ask for anything, but when I do and it actually comes through, that's a big deal. It makes me realize you guys, you really like me. Me, you really like me. I always flash back to that Sally Field Oscar speech where she accepted the Oscar. This proves that you really like me. Get it? Like nobody, one of the cutest women in Hollywood. Everybody liked her. Who didn't like Sally Field? Nowadays, with where she stands on things, I understand. But back then, she was just a cutie, man. Cutie patootie. I would have broken Sally Field's hip up until a couple years ago. Is that enough for now? That's enough for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Wow, I didn't know I was going to talk about any of that. I don't know what gets into me, man. But that's it. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday. It's going to get out late today. It's after 5 o'clock. I got to get my dinner going. And I'm sure I left a bunch of stuff out. But c'est la vie. Saving something for the next time. Have a great day. You know, tell your friends. Come back often. Be kind to one another. I'll catch you in the next one.